Chapter 4. The damp washcloth felt cool on my forehead. I snuggled deeper into the couch and pulled the quilt up to my chin. I wasn't really sick, but I liked how Allie doted on me. My stomach felt fine now that I ate some chicken soup. Mostly, I just like having a mom. Feeling better? Allie asked as she entered the room. She placed a hand on my cheek. Yeah, much, I said. Nurse Turley said something interesting when I picked you up from school today, she said. Really? What? I said nervously. Maybe Allie was on to me. She said something about you eating only lemon and lime for lunch? I knew I was the worst liar in the world. If only I had Eddie's skills in that department. Yeah, that's right, he did, Eddie said as he swaggered through the door and tossed his backpack on the floor. It was awesome. Hi, sweetie, Allie said to Eddie. How was your day? Josh set a new puking record at school, so I'd say it was pretty great, Eddie answered. Why would you eat lemons and limes for lunch? She asked me again. And grapes. Didn't you eat some grapes or something grape flavored? Eddie added with a mischievous grin. Grapes, lemons, and limes? That's a lot of acid for one meal. Why did you do it? It wasn't a dare, was it? Ellie asked. How did she know? I thought. Well, it was like this. You see, I was going down in flames. And then something amazing happened. Eddie, the master liar, came to my rescue. You see, Mom, Josh and I were watching this show last week about the lives of real pirates. And we were all sitting together at lunch today talking about how the pirates got scurvy and... Wait a minute, Allie interrupted. Oh, great, I thought. The one time Eddie's lie didn't work. You and Josh sit together at lunch? She said and looked surprised. Well, sure we do. Anyways, we were talking about ocean voyages of pirates and how they always keep citrus on board to prevent scurvy. Then Josh was worried that he might have scurvy because he hadn't eaten any fruit in a while. So I raided the teacher's iced tea table when no one was looking, and I gave him some of the lemons to eat. Eddie was a true genius. I looked at him in amazement. Eddie fired off a quick wink and a half grin. I could barely hold in my laughter. Eddie, big mean Eddie, just came up with a world-class excuse and put himself in the line of fire just to save my skin. I don't like you raiding the teacher's table, Allie said, and if I hear of it again, you'll be in more trouble than you can imagine. But I'm glad to hear you boys are sitting together at lunch, she said, and she patted both our heads and disappeared into the kitchen. That was priceless. You are the master. How did you remember all that stuff about the pirates? I asked. I always remember what I watch on TV, Eddie answered, and you can tell he was quite pleased with himself. That was true. Eddie always remembered everything he saw on TV. I realized this meant something important, but I didn't quite figure out what. The next day, I was focused on the task at hand. I knew the Pop Rocks had been the fatal error. If I could drink the soda, I could pull it off. To make sure I burped in class, I came up with a clever plan. Tucked into the left leg pocket of my cargo pants were 10 straws, a can of soda in the right leg pocket. As the entire class sat through Miss Waverly's math lesson, I put my plan into action. My palms were sweaty from nerves, so I had to keep wiping them on my pants. But I knew I could pull this off. When adding fractions, how do you change the denominator and the numerator? Miss Wavy droned on. Marina's hand flew up. My hand moved slowly down towards my left pant leg as I very carefully unzipped the zipper. It took me 3 full minutes to remove each straw and place them into my desk. Josh, Miss Waverly said. I snapped to attention. Miss Waverly looked suspicious. Are you paying attention? She asked. Yes. How do they always know? Then perhaps you should come up to the board and finish the problem, she said. I walked up to the whiteboard and started. I grabbed the blue Expo marker and effortlessly solved the problem of converting the denominator into a like number for both fractions, and then I added and reduced and was done. I only wish I could burp as easily as I could add fractions. I saw Eddie watching me. He looked impressed. Miss Waverly said thanks, but she looked a little disappointed. She lived to catch kids not paying attention. We'll spend the remainder of math block working on fractions, she announced, and began passing out the math worksheets. Whenever a teacher says, we will spend, what that really means is us kids will spend. Miss Waverly sat down at her desk and began grading papers. I started assembling my straws secretly inside of my desk. Manny's desk was right next to mine, and he watched me with a baffled expression on his face. What are you doing? Manny whispered. Shh, I said. He just shook his head. I knew I had to be extra careful because everyone knew about Miss Waverly's wandering eyes. She had what my dad called googly eyes. It's hard to tell which eye to focus on when she's talking to you because both eyes move independently of each other. It's a well-known fact that Miss Waverly can sit at her desk and grade papers with one eye while the other eye scans the classroom looking for students who are misbehaving. I bent the end of each straw carefully so it would fit into the next straw. So far I had 3 finished. This was taking longer than I'd thought. 10 minutes had passed and I was finally done. I passed a note to Manny that said, cough really loud at 10:10 exactly. Pass it on. He nodded and I watched the note pass from hand to hand to hand. It was 10:07. I sat nervously at my desk and tried to look like I was working on my math as my hand crept into my pocket of my jeans. My index finger curled around the pop tab of the lemon lime soda that rested in my pocket. Finally, the clock reached 10:10 and the whole class began coughing. I quickly popped the soda tab and shoved the straws in while the class coughed away. The sound of the popping lid was muffled by everyone coughing. Miss Waverly knew something was up, but I could tell she wasn't sure what it was. Are we all coming down with colds today? She asked knowingly. 20 guilty eyes stared back at her silently. Perhaps we should skip recess. I would hate to take sick students outside, she added. But sunshine is good for sick kids, Eddie piped in. Is that so? Well, I don't see a lot of sunshine today, just lots of clouds, maybe some sunshine on the horizon, she said as she stood up and peered out the window. This was a perfect opportunity. Miss Waverly had her back to us. With the straws in the can, I greedily sucked down the lemon lime soda. Best not to chance it, Miss Waverly said. Groans from all around the class, except from me. I was sipping soda as quickly as I could. Miss Waverly spun around just as I pushed the straw out of my mouth. I could tell Manny wanted to laugh, but he was holding it together. However, if we work hard on our math without any more silly interruptions, we may be able to get outside. She finished and sat down at her desk. She always knew just what to do to get the class back in line. It was probably a good thing that Eddie was in her class, because he had a reputation for making teachers cry or yell. Miss Waverly never did either. She was stone cold. Eddie had met his match. I shoved the straw into my desk and I started working on my math worksheet. I knew I'd guzzled enough lemon lime soda to create a massive burp. I felt the pressure in my chest. I opened my mouth to let out the world's biggest burp, but all that came out was a small hiccup. It's a well-known fact that any bodily function, no matter how small, can instantly disrupt a classroom full of 5th graders. And my hiccups would not stop. I continued to hiccup every 10 seconds or so. Everyone laughed after each one. Finally, Miss Waverly said, Josh, go drink some water. I had to be very careful when I left the classroom because I still had half a can of soda in my left pocket. I walked to the drinking fountain, but then had a better idea. I snuck into the boys' bathroom and hid in a stall. I figured if I chugged the rest of the soda, I might turn my hiccups into a burp. I chugged the rest of the can and threw it away in the trash. Let the custodian figure that one out. My hiccups stopped, so I headed back to class. I took my seat quickly and continued to work on my math. Once again, I felt the pressure in my chest. This was it. It was the highest hiccup I'd ever heard. The class exploded into laughter as I continued my ear-splitting, incredibly girly-sounding hiccups. Dude, you hiccup like a girl, Eddie teased. Miss Waverly slammed the ruler on her desk. She had a smirk on her lips, so I could tell she wasn't really mad. She just wanted the class to settle down. Josh, go see Nurse Turley, she said as the class quieted down. I had never been so embarrassed in my life. There was only one other time I could recall being this embarrassed in front of my classmates. It was during our second grade field trip to the zoo. A group of us were watching the monkeys, and Eddie was teasing them. It was weird, but you could tell the monkeys didn't like him. He reached into his lunch bag and pulled out a banana. I knew what he was going to do. I pointed to the sign that read, "Please don't feed the animals." Eddie didn't care. He threw the banana at the biggest monkey and it landed right in front of him. You could tell the monkey was not happy. Before we could all hightail it out of there, the big monkey picked up Eddie's banana and sent it sailing right back at him. Apparently, though, monkeys don't have the best aim because instead of hitting Eddie, that banana whacked me in the back of my head so hard that I fell down and skinned both my knees. I had to go to the zoo's first aid station. I guess I shouldn't have been running away. Everyone laughed, especially Eddie. He even wrote his zoo report on how monkeys should be used as designated pitchers during the World Series. I tried to block out this awful memory as I walked down the hall to the nurse's office. My hiccups reverberated off the walls and sounded even louder. I think I even heard an echo. Since all the classrooms had their doors open, I heard laughter from every room I passed. And not just from the students. I think I heard some teachers laughing too. Nurse Turley stood in the doorway of the nurse's office. "I heard you all the way down the hall," she said as she scooted me into the office. She made me sit on the uncomfortable bed again. She leaned in close to examine my face and said, "Did you try drinking some water?" I nodded yes, trying not to breathe. Did she ever eat anything besides tuna fish? "Did you guzzle any food or drinks before your hiccups?" "No," I said innocently. I know one thing we can try. It might not work, but keep in..." "Ah!" I screamed. She watched me for a second, which felt like 20 minutes, but it was probably closer to 20 seconds. "Ah, that's the oldest trick in the book. A good scare works every time," she laughed. Was my only reply. "Oh, darn. Try holding your breath. Take a deep breath and hold it for as long as you can," Nurse Turley said. I took a deep breath and watched the second hand on the wall. When it got to 18 seconds, I hiccuped. Nurse Turley frowned. "Well, these things sometimes have to run their course. Although I did hear of a case where a man had hiccups for 68 years. 68 years? What had I gotten myself into?" I sat on the hard bed for 15 minutes, and I still hiccuped every minute or so. At least they were slowing down. Once again, my eyes were drawn to the rashes and chickenpox poster. It was truly disgusting. One photo showed a kid with severe poison ivy all over his arm. It made my skin itch, and I scratched my arm in the same spot. Nurse Turley left for a moment and came back with Miss Beer, our school counselor. "Hi, Josh," she said, and pulled up a seat next to the hard bed. "I hear you have a nasty case of the hiccups." "I guess so," I said and hiccuped. "I was just wondering what you were doing before the hiccups began," she asked. "Math? Do you have trouble with math?" she cried. "No, I'm good at it." "Oh," she said and looked perplexed. "Has anything been bothering you lately?" "Not really," I lied. I wasn't going to tell her about the bet and lose the room. "What does this have to do with hiccups?" "Well, Nurse Turley said you didn't eat or drink anything before your hiccups started, so I was thinking maybe they were stress hiccups." "I never heard of that." "Me either. It's just a theory I have," she added. Boy, was she weird. "How's everything at home?" "Okay." I decided to keep my answers short. Miss Beer was notoriously long-winded. She could talk for days, and it was almost lunchtime. Bingo! I just had a thought. I knew a way to get out of this that was worthy of Eddie, the master liar. "Miss Beer, sometimes I get hiccups at home too, mostly when I get stressed out. I guess having Eddie move in with me has been kind of stressful, but as soon as I eat something, they go away." Blended families can sometimes cause undue stress. Perhaps I should counsel you and Eddie together for a few days, she said. What? I yelled. No, that's okay, really. I'm fine. I just need some lunch. I'll see you both tomorrow during recess. It'll be our first session. Now, go on to lunch. Was all I could say.